Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Lessons Learned, the dumbest thing I've ever done with money. My name is Suzanne, and I am your head coach at G.R.A.C.E Financial Coaching. And I am super excited to welcome my friend Daniel Rakiec today of Beantown Money Coaching. Hey, Daniel, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
Good. Beautiful. Looks like a beautiful New England day out there.
Oh, yes, this is my office these days. I love it. I just want as much light as
Yes.
possible.
Gorgeous, gorgeous. Love it. So, Daniel is the owner of Beantown Money Coaching, as I said, and we are very excited to hear about all the dumb things he's done with money. But first, Daniel, tell us a little bit about your coaching company.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm a full-time personal finance coach. I sit with families and individuals who are, struggling with their, trying to figure out how to meet their goals, trying to figure out how to turn this kind of financial theory into reality and really make it work for them. And I think that's was my journey before I became a financial coach. And so I just absolutely love it because I get to just walk with people who are asking real hard questions and saying, okay, how do I implement good financial practices in my real life when I'm tired and my kids are running around and there's all kinds of craziness going on. So that's a bit of why I like it, but it's I get to meet with some awesome couples who make really really awesome progress, and this is just
I
fun for
think
me.
that's a huge part of what we do is just helping people realize that one, they have to set aside the time, right? This has to be something that you're intentional with. And then two, just finding the time. And sometimes having that coach just creates that accountability where it's like, oh man, I'm meeting with Daniel today. Let me go, let me make sure I
Right.
did all my homework.
I
But yeah,
sometimes say,
having that accountability is huge.
money is a game you don't get a choice whether you're playing or not. You're playing, you're in, and so it'd be nice to know the rules and how to win if you're gonna have to play.
Yes, absolutely. So tell us what you were doing before you were a full-time coach.
Yeah, so I went to Northeastern University. I worked in science for about 13 years. I worked in academia for 3 years. I worked in neurogenetics, and then I worked in cancer genetics for about 10 years. So it's literally 1 month shy of 10 years in Cambridge, Mass. And so I was really in the nitty gritty in the lab. I wore gloves and white coat and all that kind of stuff, and really working on. I work more on the technology side, but
Okay.
really focusing on bringing a kind of early stage research and understanding causes of cancer and the genetic backgrounds to try to solve some of the world's hardest diseases. So I'm a
Wow.
bit of a nerd if you can't tell. I like that stuff. I like the technology but more importantly what it's for. That was kind of where I started. My undergrad was actually behavioral neuroscience, so that's the combination of kind of biology and psychology of humanness, human biology, human psychology. And so I kind of joke that I'm a little bit of a math nerd as well. So financial coaching kind of is a perfect fit for me because I like balancing the psychology and the mathematics together as well. I think they're both very, very important. And often I think the human side is the overlooked side in most financial plans. Most
I
financial,
was
we just
literally just gonna
don't think
say that. I
about it
think I
enough.
think
Yeah.
if we've got people who are watching for the first time, it might be shocking to them to hear you talk about behaviors and going beyond just the math, because what the heck would you need the math for? So,
Right.
what do you take from your training or your degree or your background in the behavioral part, and how do you bring that into the coaching?
Yeah, that's a great question. I always say that there's a lot of good financial education out there. You can read Ramsey books, you can read a lot of good books, and there's a lot of education. I would say that one of our skills, and my old boss used to say, what we do here is we implement. We take good things and we make them really happen. And I think that's really it's in the nitty gritty details that I think I say the devil's in the details, right? You succeed or fail based on sometimes kind of small things or small, something's off by a little bit. That's true in science. That's true when you're trying to make a robot do something you want it to do, and it's off by 0.5% in one step out of a million, right? And so there's, practically, if you're finding ways, you can't get your password to your budget app, or you can't do this, or you're just not doing it at the right time, or something with seemingly stupid or seemingly small, but it's been messing you up for 3 years. You're not doing it because of something silly, right? And so I think that sometimes just breaking it down step by step, that kind of hypothesis or science-based approach, it's like, what is the important factor here? We know in our practices that me and you, the humans in the room, are the most important factor. We can work on the math, that the numbers are important, but they're not the most important thing. And so I think that that's I'd say the nitty gritty, really getting into the details and seeing for you, for me and my wife, not somebody else's family, what's really holding us back, because that's going to be the most important thing that allows us to be successful, or really just stops us and we just kind of wander for a while.
Now you alluded to working with a lot of families and couples. Is that kind of your wheelhouse? Are you good with the couples and the
It's
families?
interesting. It's interesting. I really, I know a lot of coaches have sort of a niche and like to work with certain groups. I really like to work with everybody. I find everybody to be a challenge and to work with. I find, I was talking with one of our Ramsey coaches just about kind of a wheelhouse, as you said, and I do find that sometimes, yeah, I think I was surprised by this, but sometimes single women or kind of older middle-aged women sometimes just need some guidance in that space, something they don't have. So I find that I have a decent amount of clients in that space, but I also coach younger couples and older couples, and so really a variety of people. That's the part that just makes me smile, because they're all unique. They all have their own stories, and they all come from like dramatically different backgrounds, and
Yeah.
I like to remind them of that.
Yeah, exactly. What is something you find that is consistent between the younger couples and the older couples?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say that I often think in terms of when I sit down with a couple for the first time, I say my mind works like this. I need to know three things. One, what's your goal? Why are you here? Right. Two, why do you want it? Why is that goal important to you? And then three, just what do you need? Right. You might not need me. You might need a book. You might need somebody else. I don't know what you need. Let's talk about what you need. Right. And I find one thing I find is that when people originally think about their goals, um, I find that a lot of times people actually don't even know what they want to do. They just know that they're unhappy with their situation and really don't even have exposure to what they can do. And so I think across the board, I think people just dream too small. They just don't see what they could do. And if I work with a couple who was 70 when I met them, and they're talking about retirement, and I think they can thrive. And I can meet with a couple who's 25, and they can thrive too. And I think a lot of time it's just, well, they just want to solve one small problem. I say, oh, that's good. Let's work on that. Let's start there, right? But and once you kind of expand the horizon to what you could do, that's when I think you see more smiles and more like, wow, I can really do this. This is really an option for me. I didn't even know people like me could do this, right? I think that's dreaming a little bigger than maybe would start. But I totally understand. People are busy and just trying to solve a problem and get to the next day and things like that. And so,
Sure. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, I think, and sometimes, like you said, when it seems like a dollars and cents, black and white numbers on a page issue, maybe the
right,
person is not even thinking, as we say, like forest beyond the trees kind of thing, but
right,
they're still thinking, okay, I just need to eliminate this one weed from the garden and then the garden's going to be okay. And it's like, your garden can get so much bigger, just
right,
not from eliminating that one weed, but like adding a little fertilizer here and making sure you water every day. And so I
right.
like
Give
that.
yourself a chance. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like what you said about people dreaming too small. Definitely, definitely. So I created this show, Daniel, to help other people realize, like the ones we're talking to and the ones we coach, that even though you may have screwed up with your money in the past, they can learn from our experiences so they don't screw up. So, what is the dumbest thing you've ever done with money?
Yeah, it's a great question. I love being personal about this kind of stuff because I think it's so helpful. And I would say honestly, it was just not understanding or not having a really clear picture of what student loans exactly meant. I mean, I understood that I took out about $60,000 in student loans over my college career, and I would say that I just didn't I got a pretty reasonable scholarship, so I had a lot of my tuition paid for, but I still had to pay a lot, and so I think I just didn't fully get what that meant, and I never really looked at the numbers to a serious degree, and so I just signed the paperwork, kept moving, and that was looking back. I would say if I was doing that for any other reason, if I was about to spend $60,000 on a car or lottery tickets or anything, I should probably think about that a little bit, a little bit more. And so
Right,
I
the
think that's
amount of
probably the
research
biggest
we
thing.
would do if it was a
Yeah.
$60,000 vehicle is, just
Right.
astronomical compared to what we did when we signed for our student loans,
I
right?
would watch a lot of YouTube videos or something. I would just try to learn, right? Tell me about this car. Tell me about this program. What am I doing? And I think that,
Yeah.
of course, that was a little while ago. So, I'm 37, so it's been a few years, but I think that still we need to not understanding the weight of the decision was, I think, most important thing. And I was among the first generation in my family to go to college, so we didn't have a ton of experience with it, and we were, making decisions, trying to figure out the best thing to do. We're just doing the best we can.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Did you have any older siblings who kind of blazed the
no, I'm
path
the
or no?
oldest, but my I have some cousins who are older than me who went before me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I am the oldest as well too, and I think, every time your parent does it, they learn something else
right,
with the next kid, and by the time they get to the 3rd or 4th one, they're, like, experts on it. They're filling out the FAFSA in their sleep, right?
right.
So
I remember
what,
that.
uh, let's go a little bit deeper. When you signed the paperwork for Sally Mae, right? Okay, sounds good. Blah 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 blah. What what do you think our students today should be doing? What should they be thinking about now? What should they be thinking about
Yeah,
now that they're going to need to pay for in their future that they might not be taking into account right now?
yeah. No, that's a good question. I would say that it there was a moment when I realized something was like a little off. And I think it was like my third year when I had to renew my student loans for the next year. And I went on sallymae.gov or com or whatever it was. And I remember like there was literally a field box there that said, "How much money do you want?"
Oh my
And I said,
god.
I don't know. How much money do I need? And I literally like took out a napkin, wrote down how much rent was, thought about how much I needed just to live. And I just put in like, I don't know, $15,000 or whatever it was. And at that moment, I was like, I could put anything in this box. I could put $50,000. I could put whatever I want in this box. Maybe they wouldn't approve it, but I'm pretty sure they actually would have.
Oh
And
my
so
gosh.
I think that was just kind of a moment where I was like, I don't know if I should be driving this car. It just seems a little dangerous. And so
Yeah.
I think for kids today, and so what could I have done differently that people could do better? I would say one is just scholarships, right? Understanding that even before you get there, and I think the biggest challenge that I would have pursued is scholarships while you're in school. There's a lot of different things you can do, and there's a ton of podcasts, a ton of people working on this now to really help you find $1,000 here, $2,000 here, all that. In the same degree that I could have changed that number from 12 to 13 to 14 to $15,000, I could have brought it down by doing a few applications and like things like that.
I
By
just can't believe you did your very first budget on a napkin while sitting in front of the Sally Mae website.
right,
Congratulations.
just like what do I need? Yeah. um, so yeah,
Oh,
that's
man.
a little scary. I don't think people should do that.
Yeah. So
But
let me ask you this, and I know I
yeah,
didn't even warn you would be getting into this, but
yeah,
what is your opinion on going to college today, period? Obviously, if you're going to go
yeah,
into the
great question.
scientific field, you need to have some sort of degree in something, right?
Yeah,
If maybe you're just a research assistant, you have to have community college and
yeah.
then 2 years in, specificity and what, in, let's talk about the people who really need the degrees and then what's your opinion on people who might not need them?
Right, right. I think there's a couple of I always think, okay, like who am I talking to, right? If I'm talking to somebody who's in school right now, you're already in there. What are you going to do now, right? You can't. It's hard to stop.
Yeah, what are you
I
gonna
think,
do? Walk out,
and then
right?
if you're, and my son is 6 years old and my daughter's 7 years old, and so as I think about what are we going to do for them, obviously we're going to try and save up, but if you don't have enough, that kind of stuff. So I would say, there was a couple of key decisions that I made during school that as I look back, when I came in, I was an undecided major. And then I switched to psychology for a while. And then I was considering pre med with psychology, wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And then I remember thinking, what do people do with psychology degrees when they're done here? And then there was an opportunity for behavioral neuroscience, which was kind of like psychology pre med. It was just more hard sciences and in that space. And so I kind of calculated in my 20-year-old head or however old I was that I could do better if I had that degree behind me because I was starting to put some math behind it. I was starting to figure it out that I was going to graduate soon. I need to figure this out, right? And so I think that, I think we're in this space where everybody wants to dream what they want to be when they grow up. I think you also want to be practical about that and say, okay, if I have a psychology degree, but I'm reasonably well versed in science, what can I do with that? If I have a behavioral neuroscience degree, well, what can I do with that when I come out? And so I think if you're already in there, then be thinking about 2 years from now, what do I do? What do people do that go ahead of me, right? What kind of jobs do they get? And yeah, I would say most practically, if I'm thinking about my 6 and 7-year-old. One is if mom and dad can start now on the 529s and save, that's great. If you're, 15 years old and your parents haven't saved anything at all, then that's a different ball game. I would say, you know, first of all, you just need to learn what you want to do, right? You want to just got to learn about yourself, I think is the biggest important thing. And so, yeah, try to take classes as inexpensively as you can. Right. I
Yeah.
would say obviously I did a talk to a church youth group a while ago, a year ago or so. And the day that I went to talk to that group, I got a lead from a client, somebody to work with, and it said, "Hi, my name's," I don't know what her name was, Suzanne or something like that, right? And it said, "I just graduated. I have a degree in this. I have $100,000 in student loans, and I make $32,000 a year. Can you help me?" And so, and I literally, I scrapped my talk, or at least the first 3 minutes of my talk that day, and I put it up on the screen. And I said, "By the way, this woman called me today. She's 5 years older than you. Do you want to be her, or do you want to be somebody else?
Oh,
Because it's really easy to be her, right?" And so, I'm not saying school's bad. I'm just saying there's a lot of people coming out in that situation. So be prepared, be informed, which is what I wish I did. I wish I just had a little bit more. Would I have
yeah.
changed things dramatically? I don't know. Yeah, I think it's hard to look back and say what you would have done. But I think if you wake up, if you're in high school, or if you're looking to go to college in that space, and you get up every day, look for all the scholarships you can, try to find the best ROI from the schools you're going to and where you want to go, you're going to do okay, right? You may not be perfect, but you're going to do a lot better than if you just get that napkin out and say, "Hey, Sally Mae, I think I'll take 20 grand, 30
I
grand, whatever."
can't help but think that putting that thing up on the screen for that youth group really is like, it's really an example of that old show Scared Straight, where they would bring kids
Right,
into a prison. I mean, that was the equivalent of
right.
showing them what it's like. If you continue on this path, you are going to be in financial prison. Our friend Beverly agrees with you. That's huge. Find out for yourself what you really want to do and whether the career you're considering suits you. That was my big mistake going into science. Thanks for putting that in there, Beverly.
That's
And
great.
yes, she also makes another great point. It is so much easier to research careers now than back in the 70s.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Now
tools
you
out
just
right
type it
now.
into Google, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's a ton of opportunity now that definitely, I mean, I wish I had some of that. But I think, there were people my age who were trying and doing better than me. Right. And so I think in the end, it comes down to effort. If you just put in that effort, you'll get as far as you possibly can. And that's as best you can do. And so I think just treating it like it's a real big important thing, because it is. Right. It's
Yes.
not gonna
Yeah.
yeah.
And I know you mentioned that you and your wife are looking into the 529s already for your kids at ages 6
Mhm,
and 7. What would you
mhm.
tell a couple or a family where college is maybe not expected, where maybe it's going to be a trade school or the military? What would you suggest? Because obviously 529, sometimes that pigeonholes your money into an
Right.
area where you might not use it.
Yeah, I would say the 529 is a very flexible plan. And so it's really transferable. It can be transferred up, down, and sideways to different family members and things like that. So there's a lot of advantages there. I would say it can also be used for different levels of education too. I think it's just moved down. I don't know if I'm 100% sure on this, but I think it just moved down to where you can use it for private schools and things like that, for
Yes.
even high schools and things like that. I know those were some recent changes in the past year or so. And so I would say that in the worst case scenario, what happens? You put some money in there, and you pay a penalty on it that you wouldn't normally have paid. That is worst case scenario. I don't want that to happen. That's probably still better than not saving anything for school
Sure.
or something like that, right? Now, of course, a brokerage would be better than that if that's what you're going to do. But I would say when you are if you're focused in that way, and you're trying to say, okay, what does this look like for my family? Then I think, life's not perfect. You may make a mistake here or there, and I think that's a kind of a big theme, right? Is that you don't have to be perfect. You just have to try and
Mhm.
do a couple of things and work hard in it and figure out what is the best way to implement it for your family, because it's not going to be the same as everybody else's.
Right, right. I think
What we
sometimes,
did,
people have heard the old 529 thrown around so much that they think it's the only way to do it. It's not the only way
right,
to do it. And it is definitely, like you said, it's definitely more flexible now than it was even probably even 4 or 5 years ago. So
yeah,
I do
and I,
agree. For some people, if we know college is not happening, we'll go the brokerage route. But other than that,
right.
I think I would agree with your assessment there.
And I would say that you know, each family is different, and you don't have to be committed to one. Thing about kids coming out of college now, they don't even know what they want to do. And so I think having that base education is a great place to start. And then you get to, my biggest thing is have freedom to make the choice about what you want later, and not necessarily be locked into 20 years worth of payments or something like that.
Oh my
Sound any
gosh.
sound any fun
Yeah,
at all.
I know. It's crazy. It's crazy to think and see and know and experience, right? We've experienced
Right.
paying these loans off later in life beyond the college graduation year. So, Daniel, I really want to thank you again for sharing your financial blunders with us and all of your experience. And I hope everybody, if you joined us late, I saw a bunch of people jump in late today. Please go back and watch the replay on the YouTube video. And make sure to join us next week for another episode of Lessons Learned, the dumbest thing I've ever done with money. Thanks again, Daniel.
Thank you.